All right, we are here with Hassan Kadhim from Boehringer Ingelheim at the Disruptive Innovations Conference. Hassan, thanks for coming on board and talking with us for a minute.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so your talk today is around your continued push, and since I've known you, this is what you've been talking about, for remote clinical trials, remote studies. Give us a sneak peek into what you're presenting on today.
Sure. So today we'll be talking about an exciting project that we've led at BI to drive more innovation in digital health in clinical trials, where we're implementing a fully remote clinical trial in the respiratory space, and I'm very excited to talk about it today.
That's very cool. So we'll be sharing some data from that, or just kind of
We'll be sharing generally the design, how we did it, what are the technological components that we used it. The study is still in progress, so we don't have data yet to share, but it's just a start. Yeah.
It's a tremendous step forward, I would say, for sure. Certainly, digital technologies are helping towards the path of remote clinical studies. The more you can do sort of digitally, it makes more sense. Do you think the adoption of digital technologies in our industry has been slow, on the right pace? What are your thoughts on that?
So, a couple of years ago, or 3-4 years ago, I would say it was slow. I've seen and noticed a tremendous explosion over the past 12 months, let's say, where you see really a big transformation in the industry. You see a lot of new titles rising up in pharmaceutical companies. Everything has digital in it. So you see there's a general awakening with the pharmaceutical industry as to the importance of digital health and the adoption of digital health in clinical trials. And I think it's now in the right pace. A few years ago it was slow, people were not necessarily getting it, but I'm really happy to see how the industry has transformed to really embrace that approach and that new paradigm. Maybe we can still push a little further and harder to get us where we become really leaders in other industries.
Yep.
But hopefully, if I compare between today and 4 or 5 years ago, we're at a much better state.
And outside of remote studies, which is certainly part of your expertise, what else do you find to be sort of another disruptive innovation that you've learned about, either today or in general?
So I see two major technologies or approaches that are up and coming, which will be really important for the industry. The first one is the whole concept of novel digital endpoints, digital biomarkers. I think for remote studies and the whole digitization to work and to work effectively, we will need to have new ways of collecting our endpoints in a digital format, which is approved and validated, which is acceptable by the medical community. And I think in every indication, we need to find the novel digital endpoints or several of the novel digital endpoints which will help us get there. And that would be the collection of endpoints using digital technology, using wearables, using sensors, for example, that would be validated and allow us to do fully remote clinical trials as we want to. The second one, which I think is really up and coming, is artificial intelligence. It's very far-fetched at the beginning to use AI for clinical trials, and certainly 3 years ago that was still scratching the surface. But as we see this field evolving and growing, there are now specific pockets in clinical trials where they could really benefit from artificial intelligence. It's not there yet. Yeah. There's a lot of talk and concepts around it, so I don't see it there yet. But I expect 3-4 years from now, we will be full throttle with AI and hopefully we'll benefit from it in clinical trials.
And one of the final questions that I have is, there's still a lot of talk about the debate of BYOD versus provision device. Where do you stand on it? What's your take on it? Which one do you think is more helpful specifically within remote studies?
So where we are today, where we're seeing more and more pilots, you want to eliminate the risks that are risks that you can eliminate, that you can avoid. So today, I think provision devices is probably more beneficial to be used because we're still experimenting. We're in a state of mass experimentation. And with that, you want to eliminate the risk of having many different devices in a study. So provisioning is the way to go today. I think as we evolve and we mature and we have a better understanding and the technology matures and gets better, then there is a real opportunity to start using patients' devices. Maybe not for everything, but for specific use cases, I think it's very legitimate to use a BYOD approach.